So a few days ago I watched A Riveting Tale, a story so powerful that it puts the likes of Martin Scorsese, Quentin Tarantino, and Christopher Nolan to shame. And its name was the Minecraft movie. But I didn't watch the theatrical version like most of you peasants. No. I instead watched the unfinished version of the movie that leaked online, where the main villain, Pig Lady's mouth, didn't move, and there was a hairless dog for a couple scenes. But even that wasn't enough to bring down this movie from being the masterpiece that it is. Alright, let me stop and be serious for a moment. Now, I am being serious about the version of the movie that I watched. There was a hairless dog, the villagers were human for a scene, and the main villain's mouth didn't move for the entire movie pretty much. But at least I got the Creeper song in the post-credits.
Creeper. Oh man. So we back in the
Now, obviously, it's not like that if you watch the movie in theaters, and for the scenes that were finished in the version of the movie that I watched, it didn't look bad, even though, I'll talk about later. I wish the movie was animated, because I think it would have looked better, but whatever. But I just thought I'd mention that because the version of the movie that I watched was just hilariously awful to look at. Now, I think we could all tell from the first trailer that this movie wasn't interested in telling some complex masterpiece of a story, and I wasn't expecting that much. The plot is pretty simple, and the characters are, decent at best, but before I start talking about some of the stuff that I don't like about the plot and, some of the stupid shit, I gotta say, the comedy aspect of this movie was about the only thing that I enjoyed. There were a couple things that didn't really make me laugh, but for the most part, most of the jokes landed for me. And, it is a movie that doesn't take itself too seriously, and they make that obvious. I mean, this is the same movie where a villager gets hit with a car and then starts plowing the school principal that hit him. Then that pussy was so good that the villager started speaking English. However, that doesn't mean that I think this movie gets a complete pass, because it still tries to get you invested in the characters, and that takes a decent chunk of time out of the movie, where they're not, doing jokes and stuff, and they're doing character stuff. And there's some really dumb shit that happens in the movie, so let's get into that. I mean, right from the jump, we got Steve. So this kid wanted to be a miner, like all kids wanted to be, right? Then he grows up and works as this job pitch idea guy or something, which is not at all related to mining, but whatever. Then, on one day, when his design got rejected, he remembered that he wanted to be a miner. And he conveniently happens to find these two magic objects that were sitting in these mines and that have been there for probably over a decade. Now, I don't know how old Steve is at this point, but it's Jack Black, so he looks at least 30-something, late 30s. But I'll just say at best faith that maybe these mines got abandoned really early and they didn't do much in them. But even still, this old guy had been there for decades too and never found shit. Whatever. But after Steve finds these things that nobody else was able to find in this mine that's been there for decades, he goes to the Minecraft world. And after building some houses, he finds a conveniently placed bone outside of one of them to tame the wolf outside of his house and named it Dennis. But he's not the only one who finds a conveniently placed bone, as the fat lady will also find a conveniently placed bone and tame this exact same dog as well, who just so happens to find them in the woods, because if the dog doesn't find them first in the woods, the plot doesn't happen. Anyways, Steve gets captured and manages to escape, and then winds up telling his dog to hide the most powerful thing in existence, as he puts it, in his house. I'm not sure why this moron thought it would be safe to put this in this vacant house that would be taken someday by the government, with him, not being on Earth and all, which of course does happen later in the movie. And on top of that, he puts a note with the orb in it. He could have just buried it or something, but instead he puts a note there and hides it in this vacant house and says that there's treasure if you follow the orb. But don't worry, he said not to follow it, so everything's okay. I don't know, this shit is just dumb. The guy wants to keep the Minecraft world safe, and the movie tries to lampshade this by saying, yeah, that probably wasn't a good plan, but the movie also makes him have no brain just for the plot to happen. But, fuck it, we ball. Then, while this kid, Henry, is following this orb to the magic portal, this girl is able to just track his location like she works in the fucking CIA or some shit. Not sure how that works, but whatever. But when figuring out his location, they either became the Flash and got there in 2 seconds, or the kid and Jason Momoa were just sitting in front of this portal for however long. But that's not what happens, because we see what happens when they get to the portal. As soon as they find it, the two huzzes is already there. That shit doesn't make any sense. Then when they get to the Minecraft world, Pig Lady is immediately aware that the magic orb is there, but she wasn't earlier in the movie, when Steve got there for the first time, which is, makes no sense, but whatever. Then it turns dark out, and you know what that means.
Don't mind at night. I know you're looking looking at that cave and you're feeling kind of.
But the whole group decides to not run back to the magic portal that brought them there, so that the plot can happen, of course. Then this Mary Sue kid bangs his head on a tree and immediately knows how to build. Bro didn't even need the tutorial, he's just the goat, I guess. And I guess he also just builds this base at the speed of light because they were being chased, and this kid manages to build this tower before the mobs arrive when they were right there. Oh, but this kid who's also supposed to be a genius dropped the orb and just forgets about it, even though it was just in his hands, and then it wasn't in his hands. I don't know how he didn't know he dropped it. And he doesn't pick it up or tell someone else while building this tower at the speed of light to pick up the orb, which is whatever. Then Jason Momoa picks up the orb thing and he just forgets randomly that he's scared shitless and just stands there like a moron, forgetting everything to just stare at the orb, which obviously causes it to break so the plot can happen. Then the zombies manage to get to the top of the tower, which isn't lore accurate because zombies would never do that in Minecraft. 0 out of 10, bad movie. Then Steve magically shows up right at the nick of time to save them, but he apparently also saw the kid build the tower because he tells them later that he can build pretty much anything in this world, and he told him this because he saw the kid build the tower. So either Steve saw them getting attacked and didn't help until the last second for reasons, or he didn't see the kid build the tower, and this makes no sense. But the next part of the movie I can't hate on because this is just peak cinema.
Lava, chicken. Steve's lava chicken, yes, tasty as hell. Ooh, mamacita, now you're.
But I really gotta get back to talking about this Mary Sue ass little kid because damn, bruh, this character is so ass. Now I already talked about some of the shit this kid did, but anyways. The movie has to give us something to feel bad for the kid, so they make the kid's parents die and he gets bullied in the real world, blah, 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 blah. Shit like that. But this kid makes a fucking jetpack like it's nothing, which is just cool. Okay. Then Lil Bro creates a new invention for the first time using the crafting table, like he's got mods on or something, and then Steve just starts glazing the shit out of him. Then this kid is able to use the wingsuit for the first time and fend off the pig army while he's at it. Then instead of Steve doing it himself, they have this kid sneak through this dangerous mansion place while Jason Momoa and Steve cause a distraction instead of just having the kid cause the distraction, or just sit outside because he's a kid and Steve would be better off trying to get the thing they need, but whatever. And this kid fucking finds what they need, right? And he beats an Enderman right after looking it in the eyes, and it showed him his soul and everybody hating him, and he just snaps out of it and beats the shit out of the Enderman. This kid's just the GOAT apparently, but then this kid takes it a step further and bro devises the whole plan to defeat the pig villain lady army. Then for the next thing, to be fair, he does get saved here and gets help to destroy the MacGuffin device, but he still is the main one to do it. But anyways, Jason Momoa somehow manages to start controlling the gas thing, and also just so happens to find out how to make it shoot fireballs as well. And bro also just so happens to show up at the exact perfect time to save the kid, but also just so happens to see and know that the kid was falling and that it was him when he was flying it at just the right time from Narnia.
That just makes no fucking sense. I mean, it's just bullshit. Fuck.
Gotta be one of the dumbest Deus Ex Machina things I've ever seen in my life. But back to the rest of the stupid stuff in the plot. Forget about the kid for a second. So the Huz are able to fight off these pigmen with these skills that they magically pulled out of their asses, but they couldn't do this earlier in the movie. Then this villager gets hit by a car, a product placement car to be specific.
Everyone wants to sue me once I hit them with my Jeep Grand Cherokee.
But earlier in the movie, one of the villagers dies to an arrow. Yeah.
That just makes no fucking sense.
This math isn't mathing to me, but then we see the villain's backstory for a solid 2 seconds where it's explained that she despised creativity and wants to destroy the Minecraft world because she got made fun of at a talent show. Some real depth to be explored there, but I can't say she's a terrible villain because she killed General Chungus, and killing General Chungus really struck fear into my heart. That made her an intimidating threat to be scared of. Then the main villain sends in the Great Hog, and the movie lampshades this by saying that she finally put the brain in. But if this orb is so important to her, I don't know why she doesn't just send the Great Hog to begin with. If General Chungus has been so unreliable in the past, like she says before, when she's like, oh, you have failed me for the last time, and then the Great Hog kills Great Chungus, or Big Chungus, sorry, General Chungus. And then the Great Hog happens to find the group when they're in the mines. I don't know how he found them, but he did somehow. Then in the middle of the chicken jockey fight, this is a bit of a nitpick. The little demon is already about to fall on Jason Momoa until Steve manages to move at the speed of light to hit him with Yeah, I don't know what's up with this movie and the characters just becoming speedsters randomly, but, you know, fuck it, we ball. Then the pig army manages to find the group again somehow, and we get possibly the stupidest scene in the entire movie.
No, Steve, get him out of here! Go, Hank! Save your sister and get home!
Garrett, you don't have to do this!
No, like bro really doesn't need to do this. Bro is making a sacrifice play when he could just dip with them easily. Like, there was genuinely no need for this. And on top of that, pig villain lady can just use the force and grab the orb from Steve, apparently. So now I just question, on top of not sending the Great Hog from the beginning to get the orb, why didn't she just go herself? Shit could have been so much easier and so much faster, which is what she wants. So, like, what? Also, I didn't mention this, but earlier in the movie, the pigmen are, like, shooting arrows at Steve that he has to block with his shield. Now, mind you, they need Steve alive to get the orb location, because they don't know where the orb is at this point, right? Now, I get that the pigmen are supposed to be stupid, but the lady doesn't even tell General Chungus, or any of them, for that matter, to take him in alive. Then, during the build-up to this whole, you know, final big battle, they 100% stole some of this score from Into the Spider-Verse. I don't really think this is a problem in the movie, I just think it's funny. But then during the big battle, Fat Lady shows up after like 10 minutes of the fight already starting for some reason with the army of dogs. She just randomly shows up now. Okay, but this isn't the only stupid Deus Ex Machina thing that happens during this fight, as I've already talked about earlier with Jason Momoa saving the kid. And, yeah, that about sums up all the shit that I think is just kind of dumb or silly in the plot. But there's also the other characters that I didn't talk about yet that are just like, eh. First things first, we got Jason Momoa. Now, honestly, he was probably one of the only two characters that had somewhat decent writing going for him in this movie. He's a, fallen legend, I guess is the term. I don't know what I would call him, but he puts up this front of being like this doodly dude, and he eventually expresses this to Steve and Henry. And you know, I thought this was pretty decent in the writing department. It's nothing crazy, but you know, at least there's something there. But he's also just a fucking loser in this movie. Like, I get that that's the point to an extent, but like, damn, they kind of overdo it. I mean, bro is either getting his ass whooped or looking like a douchebag or an idiot at damn near every point in this movie.
Creeper. Oh man.
And the only two good moments that he has for himself both don't make sense and are stupid, which I already talked about earlier with the whole sacrifice thing and the Deus Ex Machina save thing. Like, the writers for this movie treated Jason Momoa worse than Sony and Marvel Comics treat Spider-Man. Then you've got Steve. Now, my only problem with his character is him being a bit of an idiot in the beginning. Other than that, I thought he also had some decent writing. I liked how he, you know, was this guy that's kind of like hiding from the real world, or he gave up on the real world and he found this world where he can be like creative and stuff. And then by the end of the movie, you know, he gave the real world another shot. I thought that character arc was pretty decent. It was pretty solid. And as for the Huz, yeah, I got nothing. They just kind of sucked. Like, I can't think of a single thing that was really interesting about either of them. I mean, White Girl has like the internal conflict that she's like struggling to keep her brother like safe, and you know, during all this after their mom just died. And Black Girl has the internal conflict of having too many side hustles because she's trying to get the bag. I didn't really give a fuck about either of these because they just don't really get explored in an interesting way. I'm not saying that those two internal conflicts can't be like, you know, interesting, but they just didn't get explored in any way that was really that interesting. We get like one scene where they have a heart-to-heart with each other, which was fine, and they like, you know, explain the shit that they're dealing with, but that's about it. The rest of the movie is kind of just the White Girl saying, oh my god, I gotta keep my brother safe, and the Black Girl just listening to her or helping. Yeah, just not very good characters. And then there's the kid, which I already talked about. The kid just sucked. I didn't like his character. And my final issue with this movie is that they decided to go with the realism for the art style. I honestly don't know why they couldn't have just made this an animated movie. They could have even made it the same art style as like the Minecraft story mode, and it would have looked way better. Like, I'm not gonna lie, there is literally like mods for Minecraft, like RTX or ray tracing mods that make that look better than what the movie looked like. I'm not even saying that the movie looked bad, like the final version. I think it looks fine. It looks okay. It's just the realism art style is just really weird. And I've been thinking this since the first trailer came out, but yeah, those are about all my issues with the movie. I'm not saying this movie is terrible, because I still do think it's a fun time, and I had fun watching it both times I did watch it. I obviously think the writing is mostly a bit dumb or silly, but the comedy in this movie does hit for me, and there's a lot of it, so, you know, that was good. I'd probably give this movie like a solid, you know, 5 or 6 out of 10. And I know there's gonna be people in the comments that are like, you know, it's a comedy movie, it's blah blah blah, it's not taking itself seriously, why are you like going so hard and criticizing the plot and like characters and stuff? Because it would be a disservice to, you know, comedy movies out there that are, you know, they actually have good character writing and not an entirely stupid plot, and they are also funny. But yeah, let me know what you guys thought of the movie in the comments, and yeah, thanks for watching.